In the world of entry-level subcompact SUVs, Toyota hasn't had quite the sales success of some of its rivals like Subaru and Honda. The company first tried their hand at this space when they introduced the all-new CHR nearly a decade ago. They followed it up with the Corolla Cross back in 2021 as essentially a jacked-up version of the very successful Corolla hatchback. Well, the original Corolla Cross was a decent attempt, however, it was already starting to fall behind versus some of its rivals. So for 2026, Toyota is making some extensive changes to the Corolla Cross family, including updated sheet metal on the outside, and on the interior we get some upgraded technology, which includes a larger infotainment screen. So today we're actually back out here in Napa, California, because we're finally able to get behind the wheel of the 2026 Corolla Cross XLE, and the big question I want to answer: has Toyota made enough changes to their small entry-level SUV to keep consumers flocking into showrooms? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we get into the updated sheet metal that Toyota has made this year, I thought I'd remind you guys what's going on underneath the hood. Now, here in America, Toyota continues to offer two different powertrain options on the Corolla Cross. We're actually going to do a separate review on the upgraded powertrain, which is the hybrid. So this video is going to focus primarily on the standard engine. This is the company's tried and true 2-liter naturally aspirated dynamic force gasoline direct and port injection 4-cylinder engine. It's a naturally aspirated engine, of course, with variable valve timing. The power figures here are unchanged, and this engine is a direct carryover from the powertrain that you find in the Corolla, making 169 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. You can still take your pick between either front-wheel drive, or for an extra $1,300, you can get the company's all-wheel drive system with dynamic torque transfer. It's actually got a physical connection between the engine and the rear wheels, obviously, and your only transmission choice is an electronic CVT with a physical first gear. So it's an interesting combination that gives the transmission kind of a traditional stepped automatic feel, especially when you're starting off from a stop. Fuel economy is rated for this all-wheel drive version that we're testing here at 29 in the city, 31 on the highway, about 30 combined. If you guys go for a front-wheel drive version, it'll improve to 31, 33. This model here has a 13.2 gallon fuel tank. You're looking at just under 400 miles of range on a full tank. That's of course on regular gas. Now, Toyota doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time for this model. We'll test it out when we get out on the road. Top speed should be just under 110 miles an hour. And surprisingly, the Corolla Cross is rated to tow, although it's rated to tow at a really low 1,500 pounds. And as this car sits, because it's based on the Corolla, it is pretty lightweight, weighing in at around 3,300 pounds. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here, which, as you can see, is supported by a prop rod, and the hood itself is also pretty heavy. As I close the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the styling changes. First of all, Toyota offers the Corolla Cross in like base L trim, LE trim, and then of course this is the XLE trim, which is the highest trim that you can get. For the gas model, the hybrid, which we'll do a separate review on, is offered in S, SE, and XSE. You can see at the front end, Toyota has made some big changes to the grille and to the headlights. That's what you're gonna notice right away. First of all, on the headlights, you can see all Corolla Crosses come standard with their full LED headlights, which have now a darkened housing as opposed to the chrome housing. You have a projector for the LED low and high beams. You have an LED turn signal, and there's also a new LED daytime running light, which actually functions as this little upper portion when the vehicle is on. Previously, the low beam would just come on a low intensity as the daytime running light, so this looks a little bit more upscale. You can see the grille on the vehicle is unique to the gas-powered models. It's a little bit larger, a little bit more aggressive, more rugged, Toyota says. You can see the air intake openings are enlarged. There's some gloss gray accent here with the Toyota logo. I love the fact that Toyota still offers fog lights on the upper trims. And you can see a lot of the openings are functional. You have actual integrated parking sensors here, but no 360 camera. Toyota does not offer that on the Corolla Cross at any price. And then this color, which was new last year, is technically called Soul Red Crystal. This is actually, in fact, a Mazda color that Toyota charges around $500 extra for. And that's because this vehicle is built at the same factory in Alabama where Mazda also builds the CX-50. Although the two vehicles don't share any componentry, they just occasionally will share colors because Mazda offers Cypress Green, which is also available on the Corolla Cross. But moving around the side profile, this vehicle continues to be built on the TNGA-C architecture. So this is technically a different platform versus like a Camry or a RAV4. It's just basically the same platform, just smaller. And this vehicle is definitely small, with a 108 or 103.9 inch wheelbase and a 177 inch or 176 inch overall length. This is around 5 inches shorter than the upcoming redesigned Toyota RAV4. Its wheelbase is the same size as the Corolla sedan and Corolla hatchback. The vehicle is around 72 inches wide, and you can see the wheels have also been restyled. These are the 18-inch wheels that you get with the XLE. riding on a 225 by 55 R18 Goodyear all-season tire. You have all disc brakes, independent front and rear suspension. If you go for a front-wheel drive version, you'll have a semi-independent twist beam. And this car surprisingly has 8 inches of ground clearance, which is actually a pretty decent number considering this is not really designed to be like an off-roader like a Subaru Crosstrek, for example. You can see it's an SUV, so you have all the unpainted cladding around the wheel arch trim and on the side sill, although it's kind of tasteful. I applaud for Toyota for not going overboard with all the plastic cladding. And this Soul Red crystal, you can see, has a beautiful metallic fleck. This is one of my favorite reds on Mazda, so it's kind of interesting to see it on a Corolla or a Toyota product. You can see the roof is body colored. Toyota offers a black roof on the XSE trim or the SE trim on the hybrids. The mirrors, you can see, are also black painted. They are not power folding, however, but they do fold in manually. You have integrated turn signals, and again, no 360 camera on this model, but you do have Toyota's Safety Sense 3.0, so you have blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control, traffic jam assist, all that good stuff that you expect from a modern car. You can see the trim over here is also chrome, and you have a sunroof on this model with some integrated roof rails. You can also get crossbars if you'd like. And then looking over here at the back, you can see this is actually a little nice Easter egg that shows Corolla Cross there in chrome as well. And you can see the taillights have also been slightly updated. They are a little bit darkened this year, and Toyota made their LED taillights as standard equipment across the board, so that's a really nice touch. You can see at the rear, you can see the rear bumper's also been slightly updated. You have a subtle little spoiler at the back, and you can see in terms of the cargo area, a power liftgate's included on the top trims as part of a convenience package. This is one of the few vehicles in the class that offers a power liftgate. You get around 17 cubic feet of storage space, which improves to around 44 cubic feet of space with the seats folded. This is basically the same cargo as the hybrid model as well. There's also a temporary spare tire under here, so you don't have to deal with a fix-a-flat kit. So in general, the cargo space is on the smaller side for the class, but it also is still very usable, and it's much better versus the Corolla hatchback. Now moving on to the interior of the updated 2026 Corolla Cross. As you can see, the Soul Red crystal on the outside is complemented very nicely by this brand new interior. This is called Portobello. So this is their Softex, which is a synthetic leather. It's a new color option on the inside. It's only available on the XLE trim. And I actually think that's a little sad. I want Toyota to offer this interior color on an XSE trim, for example, but it certainly gives this car a more luxurious vibe. We first saw this Portobello color, I believe, on the Toyota Grand Highlander, if you guys go for the top trim. So with around 8 inches of ground clearance, the Corolla Cross has a nice easy SUV step-in height. As I get in and shut the door, the door, I have to say, has a kind of a tinny sound when it shuts, so it's kind of similar to the Corolla sedan. It's built on the same TNGA-C architecture. Now, as you can see, here's the key fob for the vehicle. It has a little leather sleeve covering the key. It's their latest intelligent access key. I actually really like the way the leather sleeve looks. It gives it a more high quality feel. Typical buttons here for lock, unlock. You have a power lift gate, which again, you don't typically find in this space, along with a panic function. And then when you want to start it up, stop button is typically here on the dash. It gets blocked by the steering wheel. But because this is not a hybrid model or a mild hybrid, it has a very traditional starter noise. And I also like the way the 4-cylinder sounds at startup. It's a very refined and quiet sound, which is far different versus the way this engine sounds when you're actually driving it. So that's kind of interesting to see the difference in that. Now, in terms of the rest of the interior, let's talk about the materials. On the door panel here, as you can see, this top of the line XLE has a soft touch injection molded plastic here with some faux stitching here on the upper portion. You have a silver painted plastic door handle, more silver trim here for the grab handle. You can see the Portobello Softex carries over here, which is nice. And then the window controls, only the driver window is one touch up and down. The passenger window is also one touch up and down, I'm sorry. And then actually, just kidding, all 4 of the windows are one touch up and down, but only the driver's window has an illuminated button. So it's kind of nice how Toyota gave you one touch for all 4. You don't typically, again, find it in the entry-level SUV segment. You can see the steering wheel is starting to look a little old. Toyota has a newer looking steering wheel in some of their other models. No paddle shifters, as you can see, for this trim, but it has some actual buttons here to control the Toyota Safety Sense 3.0, the adaptive cruise control, of course, the audio control functionality. You have a tilt and telescoping manually adjustable steering wheel, which has a good amount of adjustability and range, and you also get a heated steering wheel on this trim via a button over here on the dash, I believe, over here on the center console. And then a head-up display is sadly not available. You don't typically find that in this space. And then in terms of the upper materials here, this is all hard touch plastic as expected with more silver and piano black trim. And then it's nice and padded over here with the faux contrast stitching of course. But overall, the dash layout looks pretty much the same. What I don't like about this car is how the dash kind of jets far out towards the driver and the passenger, which kind of makes the interior feel a little bit more cramped than some competitors. But Toyota has made some improvements to the tech here. So you can see the center houses a bigger 10.5-inch display. This display is optional on the LE and the SE trim for an extra $635. Standard on the XLE and XSE trim. You can see my phone is connected via the wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. You can also make it a larger display where you can take up the entire screen here. And this is definitely an improvement over the 8-inch display that was the largest display you can get before in the past. So this is definitely a nice change here. I also love how big the icons are. It's got Toyota's latest audio multimedia interface, so it has over-the-air updates, of course. And then when you guys go for the upper trims, you got a fully digital 12.3-inch cluster. In fact, all the Corolla Crosses now come standard with the 7-inch cluster. Previously, the base trim had like a 4.2-inch cluster, so now you have the 7-inch or the upgraded 12.3, which this display definitely looks pretty nice. You can also customize the way you want this to look by kind of using the little buttons here. You can kind of go into there and change the way the information looks. You can also push and hold the OK button. You can also go to like an actual settings button here where you can actually change the way the display looks and adjust the driver information system. If you go into the settings here for meter settings, this is actually one of the things that I like to do when I go into this car. You can actually go into the meter style. It's on the smart style right now. There's also a casual, there's a tough, and then there's a sporty style as well. The sporty, it kind of looks, I think, the best, but that also is really bright at night because of the white face look. But it's nice how Toyota kind of gives you, the ability to kind of customize the gauge display. I think that's a really nice unexpected touch, especially in this particular class. Looking at the rest of the center stack here, you can see this has also been redesigned to where it's much larger. As you can see, my iPhone 16 Pro Max fits perfectly in the wireless phone charging pad, which is standard if you guys go for the LE trims and up. Previously, the wireless phone charger went this way, and it barely fit an iPhone Pro Max. So this is definitely an improvement. This is technically just a single wireless phone charger as opposed to a dual, but you could put two phones there. You have 2 level heated seats here and your heated steering wheel, auto start, stop, defeat button, of course. No ventilated seats in this model. I also like how this is also wider, but they kind of put a little bit of piano black, but they also put a flat black here, which is, I think, a nice touch. You have an electronic parking brake, USB-C charging port here. And if I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your backup camera, which includes trajectory, backup sensors, of course, cross-traffic braking as well, but no full 360 camera. The quality and the resolution there is also a big improvement. You can see cup holders have also been enlarged, I believe. You have that same Portobello Softex on the armrest pad, and you have another USB-C there along with a 12-volt power outlet. That's a pretty decent size. Well, actually, it's a little small if you start looking at the rest of the segment. And then above me, you can see this trim comes standard with a sunroof. It's just a standard sunroof with a manually retractable shade. It also opens up to vent air and it tilts. And then the overall quality of this cabin, this is an early pre-production model supposedly, but everything for the most part fits together nicely. Although I did notice this car, when we were driving on the highway here, had a lot more wind noise than I expected. So I'll have to wait until I get an actual production model back home to kind of test that out. The glove box, you can see, is damped but not lined with felt. It's a bin style. It has a pretty decent amount of space. And then these seats, as you can see, look really nice. They actually feel pretty similar to leather. They're heated, but again, they're not ventilated. But I will say that these seats have much better padding versus the original Corolla Cross models that I tested. But overall, this is definitely an improvement. Just don't expect class-leading amounts of space when you guys look at this particular vehicle. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area. I can show you guys the space there. And this is where Toyota's Corolla Cross does trail some of its competitors, especially in rear seat legroom. Now, first of all, the Portobello leather carries over back here. You have the ability to fold the seats down. That creates an almost flat load floor, so that's pretty nice for expanding the cargo. But if you're looking for reclining seats, sadly, the seats do not recline or slide forward and back. Once you get back here, you can see this is pretty much my driving position. As I shut the door, you can see the space is okay. Toyota says you only have 32 inches of legroom back here, which is pretty small. And a lot of its competitors offer as much as like 37, 38 inches of legroom. So this is on the tight side. There is a hump here for the center passenger to deal with. For the drive shaft, for the all-wheel drive system, you have rear seat air vents, which actually I was surprised to find, along with 2 more USB-C charging ports. So that's nice. Only 1 map pocket here on the driver's or the passenger side seat. And then the material quality is hard touch plastic, so it's a downgrade from the front. This is at least padded here. You have a cup holder here, which is nice. And then it looks like there's actually an armrest here now with 2 cup holders there, so that's a nice little improvement. You have these grab handles here. The sunroof does take up a little bit of headroom, but there's also a nice carve out here. So for somebody my height at 5'7", I have maybe 3 inches of additional headroom clearance, and I can get back here and cross my legs. But again, if you have taller friends, this is where you're going to be wanting to check out some of its competitors, like the HR-V, for example, which has just more rear seat legroom. So here we are behind the wheel of the updated Corolla Cross. This model, however, is the gas version, which Toyota claims about 60% of Corolla Cross buyers choose. So before we get started with the rest of the driving scene, I do want to test out the 0 to 60 because remember, this car is equipped with a naturally aspirated 2-liter 4-cylinder that makes 169 horsepower. It's hooked up to a continuously variable transmission with a physical first gear, which is some interesting technology when Toyota first debuted it on the Corolla hatchback back in 2018. But I never actually 0 to 60 tested the gas-only version. We got 6.9 in the hybrid, so let's go ahead and see what we can get. There's no drive modes here. You're just gonna brake torque it. Wow. Felt fast at first, but then it just took a second. It actually does shift from first to second there because there's a physical first gear. Ouch. We got 0 to 60 in 10.6 seconds. And I know I have Rob next to me in the car, but he definitely does not weigh that much to be slowing this car down. And that's actually on a perfectly level surface. So this segment of vehicle is known for being pretty lethargic. I mean, the Honda HR-V is also in the high 9s to maybe even low 10-second range, but this is pretty bad. There's a reason why Toyota offers the excellent hybrid powertrain that offers an extra nearly 30 horsepower plus a lot more torque. This engine, even though it makes 169 horsepower, I think only has like 151 foot-pounds of torque, so it's not a lot of torque for a vehicle that weighs roughly 3,400 pounds. Thankfully, the hybrid is actually only around 70 pounds more, so it's really not that much heavier despite the added complexity of the hybrid powertrain. Now, of course, 0 to 60 isn't, the reason why you'd buy a vehicle like this. And how does the Corolla Cross feel in everyday driving? This is where the numbers might fool you because the car itself has a pretty responsive transmission. I know a lot of people don't like CVTs because it's buzzy, it's the rubber band feeling that you get, but that physical first gear does make this CVT feel a little different because you actually can feel how responsive it is. And it doesn't really feel like it's shifting, at least when it goes into its first gear, but at the same time, it has the response that you'd get from a traditional stepped automatic. The engine in this car is pretty noisy. In fact, Toyota's 4-cylinders, I have to admit, have gotten noisier and noisier, it seems like, with their newer generation. I'm not sure if they're kind of taking away some sound deadening materials, but you'll kind of notice that same buzziness in the hybrid model as well, which we're going to do a separate video on the hybrid if you guys are interested in learning about the hybrid model. But other than the styling changes on the outside, the interior got some updates. As you can see, we now have the fully digital 12.3-inch cluster on this upper trim, and then you also get the big 10.5-inch display here. And I have to say, this display is a big improvement because previously you can only get this car with the 8-inch display, and it was just abysmal in terms of like the graphics and resolution. It just looked like it was behind. The one thing Toyota did, however, get rid of is the volume knob. That infuriates me, how we just have these buttons here. Now you can get around that by just using the buttons here on the steering wheel to increase the volume, but that's something that I kind of wish they would have kept, was just the physical volume knob. But in terms of just everyday driving, this car does come with a start-stop feature. It's turned off right now, but I find it to be a little bit jarring when it's on, so I turned it off personally myself. Visibility out of this car is still pretty good. You can see out of the front and the side easily. This A-pillar isn't super thick, but I did notice that it kind of is a little bit in my way, and I lost a couple of cars in my blind spot there when I was waiting at an intersection. The view out of the back is also fine. Toyota does not offer their digital camera rearview mirror on this vehicle, but I do love the way the frameless rearview mirror looks on this car. It just looks a lot more sophisticated, a lot more modern. You can hear as I start to accelerate, the CVT is quickly pushing the engine to like 4,000 RPM to give you more power, but at the same time, mostly what I'm hearing is just noise. So I'm not really liking that. This all-wheel drive model that we're testing also comes with a fully independent suspension. If you guys go for the front-wheel drive versions, you'll have a semi-independent torsion beam, which is going to affect the ride, affect the handling. The Corolla Cross is definitely not sporty. This vehicle in general feels very softly sprung. The ride is pretty good though. I mean, 18-inch wheels is the biggest that you're gonna find. The XLE hybrid model does have a slightly, sportier suspension tune, which we'll talk about that in our separate review of the hybrid model. I do like these seats. This is the upgraded Softex, the full Softex. It's in a Portobello color, which looks really good with the Mazda Soul Red Crystal metallic on the outside. I love the fact that it kind of has like a more premium feel with the brown interior, which is nice. No cooled seats, however. You only get heated seats, 2-level heated seats with this vehicle, so kind of keep that in mind. But in general, the Corolla Cross basically just feels like a taller version of the Corolla hatchback, which, as you guys know, the Corolla in general is getting long in the tooth. It first was introduced back in 2018. Toyota is working on an all-new generation Corolla, which I imagine the Corolla Cross will follow probably maybe 2 to 3 years after the all-new generation Corolla comes out. Has Toyota done enough to the regular Corolla Cross to, keep this vehicle competitive? Well, that's the thing about the subcompact SUV class. The sales leaders are the Subaru Crosstrek and the Honda HR-V. Toyota's sales have been steadily increasing for the Corolla Cross. The company is approaching 100,000 units as of last year, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them, crest that 100,000 unit mark, especially with all the changes that they've made. I'm just not entirely sure they've done enough to this vehicle to warrant my recommendation. Yes, the hybrid powertrain is very, enticing, especially when it gets up to 42 mpg. This model, however, gets up to 32 mpg, and I'll have to wait until I get one back home to test for a full week. Right now, the car literally only has 53 miles on it, and it's only averaging 21. So it's not very, it's not an actual decent number because the car's not broken in. We haven't had a chance to do some fuel economy testing. It's just been driven by median and hasn't been, again, driven to get the best efficiency numbers possible. I wouldn't be surprised if this car could get 30 miles to the gallon, but if you can get over 40 easily in the hybrid, and the hybrid only costs $2,000 more, it's kind of an enticing proposition to just go with the hybrid version. The back seat in this car is also still pretty cramped. The cargo area also is on the smaller end, although in general this class has a pretty small cargo area. Let's try to accelerate here. My foot is to the floor. Literally, it's to the floor. Lots of noise, sort of accelerating. The CVT does mimic shifts, which I like, but yeah, this is the reason why you'd want to go with the hybrid, because the hybrid will easily shave 3 seconds off the 0 to 60 time. And I also kind of like the way the hybrid looks. There's one in front of us right now in Calvary blue with the two-tone roof. So just keep that in mind. If you guys are considering this car, it may be worth it to spend the extra $2,000 for the hybrid powertrain, but remember, this is still, priced decently in terms of the competitive set, but this segment in general has gotten more and more expensive over the years. But thankfully, Toyota has made some nice improvements, especially in the tech department, to warrant the slightly higher price tag that they're asking for. So after spending the day driving the updated 2026 Corolla Cross with the standard gas powertrain, I have to say the original Corolla Cross, when it first came out, I thought was a decent effort. Even though it was a little too small on the inside, it was a strong value. It offered kind of baby RAV4 vibes, especially if you guys didn't like how much bigger or how much more expensive the RAV4 got. So for 2026, Toyota has essentially rectified some of the faults that I had. First of all, the exterior design of this car is still not my favorite, although I like the changes that Toyota has made to the styling, along with this soul red crystal color. I like the interior with the new Portobello interior, along with their fully digital cluster and the bigger 10.5-inch display and the wider center console that's now accommodating larger smartphones and a little bit more storage. In terms of the ride and handling dynamics, this is kind of where, if you're looking in this class of vehicle, typically the cars are pretty slow. As you guys saw, we got 0 to 60 in like 10.5 seconds, which is dreadfully slow, but at the same time, a lot of its rivals, like an HR-V, for example, are almost as slow as this vehicle. And if you want more power, that's where you can click on the link in the description below. You can watch our full review on the hybrid model. The hybrid's going to essentially shave around 3 seconds off that 0 to 60 time, actually a little bit more than 3 seconds. So that's kind of where you can kind of go to get more power and better efficiency. The ride quality in this car is also on the softer side, which is good for the intended buyer. It's not a sporty vehicle by any means, although the XLE trim should try to address that if you guys want a sportier driving car. And the cargo area is on the smaller side, but Toyota managed to sell around 93,000 of these vehicles last year. So sales have been up or on the upward incline, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the company do well over 100,000 units at some point. The company actually says that around 60% of Corolla Cross buyers are choosing the gas model, 40% are doing the hybrid. I would probably assume that's going to change at some point. Now, if you guys are interested in getting your hands on the updated model, these are heading to dealerships right now as we speak, or actually I think they're already on the ground. And you can basically buy a base L with front wheel drive for around $24,835. So just under 25 grand makes this thing a screaming deal, especially with all the added standard equipment Toyota has added this year. Most of you really should step up to the LE trim for an extra $2,500, I believe. That'll give you the wireless charging pad, the alloy wheels, and a couple of other niceties. And you can also add the option for the bigger display, for example. Now, this XLE trim that I'm showing you here starts at around $31,000. Remember, if you guys want all-wheel drive on the gas version, it's an extra $1,400 more. So all in with the convenience package that my test car has, the paint upcharge, the premium JBL sound system, which is also a nice upgraded feature. This particular model here is around $35,384. So a little over 35 grand makes it kind of expensive. Although if you're looking at top versions, for example, of the Subaru Crosstrek, That's going to also be equally expensive. A Mazda CX-30 is also going to be equally expensive. So just keep that in mind. If you want the hybrid, again, that's an extra $2,000. So really there is a lot of value baked into this car, but also just keep in mind, if you are gonna spend $35,000 on this vehicle, you can easily spend that on a current generation RAV4, although not a fully loaded trim. So it's really gonna come down to whether you want more features, but are okay with a slightly smaller car. Well, all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2026 Toyota Corolla Cross in the XLE gas-powered trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.